Yo, what's good, world? This your boy Preezy, back at it with another edition of Creative Insights, where I share inspirational words from various entertainers, athletes, musicians, and other great figures from all walks of life. Today, I'll be sharing 10 creative insights from actor and director Denzel Washington to help inspire you to reach the peak of your creativity. Enjoy.
So I took a class. I was uptown at Fordham, and I took a class just as an elective. And it was I forgot what they even called it, some kind of acting or speech acting class. And I kind of enjoyed it. I said, oh, it's kind of fun. Yeah. And that summer, I went to work. I had done a lot of work in the Boys and Girls Club, and also in the Y. So I went to a sleepaway camp to work as a counselor up at Camp Sloan, Lakeville, Connecticut. And the counselors put on a show for the campers. Yeah. So I did a thing for my group, my tent that I was in charge of, my cabin. And I remember one of the counselors saying, you know, you got a real knack, you know, for this acting thing. You seem to be like real natural on stage. So I decided, I didn't know what I wanted to do anyway, so I decided to change campuses. From the Rose Hill campus at Fordham, I transferred down to Lincoln Center where they had a theater program. And I started taking classes and auditioning for plays.
I think a part of what Viola just said is that you get to dig deeper and you get another day. Right. And you get the energy. Mm-hmm. You do a movie and there's 200 people that are used to it and they don't care, and everybody's doing their job, and it comes in a theater somewhere, and you're picking your nose at home somewhere, clipping your nails. There's no energy. Right. When I was on Broadway 5 years ago with Julius Caesar, I made a decision to sign autographs every night. I don't know what I did. Oh yeah, it ain't happening this time. No. Only as I rub my knees, only because my knees are bad. It's hard for me to stand. But.
And why did you decide to do that?
Well, you know, I wanted to say thank you. It was my way of saying thank you. And the first night, it was like 5,000 people out there. I said, okay, wait a minute. Everybody who has playbills from our show. So, yeah, because it was like people were just wandering up the block. I was like, wait a minute. I forgot. I'm on, 42nd Street, Times Square. I was like, wait a minute. But honestly,
you were signing for weeks.
The energy, and I was out there an hour and a half every night, every show. But the energy you got back, the stories, the 5 little old ladies who just drove in from Detroit. And I'm like, well, what y'all doing tonight? They said, we getting back in the car, baby. We got to go back tonight. Wow. And, a little 84-year-old lady was like, baby, if I was 3 years younger. Oh, true story. True story. Then we had, and I say this also, because I hope it happens with this play. We had some high schools come. We had one school from somewhere, I forgot where, and they were doing Julius Caesar. And some young kid was like, well, my Brutus is a bit different. He's more the classic stoic. But it was great to engage and exchange with these young people. There was an energy. I got more from it than I gave to the people that I signed for. That's, you don't get that.
There's a lot of sentiment for Al Pacino because he's never won before. So when I look at Al Pacino, and I know he's been nominated 8 times, and I know he's one of the reasons I became an actor. When I look at Pacino and De Niro and Hoffman and James Earl Jones, those are the people I said, I want to be like them. When I didn't know what an actor was, because there was nobody in my family that was acting, I said, I want to be like him. I want to use my hands the way Pacino uses his hands. I want to use, my voice the way James Earl Jones uses his, or be as intense as De Niro. So those guys are the reason I'm in the game. So I wouldn't be sad if he won. I want to win.
Do I think they could? I really don't think about it. I don't concern myself with awards and things like that. That has really not a lot to do with what I do. It's not the reason I'm in this business, and it sure doesn't motivate me in my work. It's a nice, icing on the cake or whatever after the fact, but it's truly after the fact. And it's out of my hands, I've done what I can do as far as this film is concerned. I've done that already. It's there. However people react to it, it has to do with what they're bringing to the table.
So how do you know if you've done a good job?
When I look at it, I can, say, oh, okay, this is pretty good, or whatever,
But I never wanted to be famous. To be quite honest, never wanted to be famous. I wanted to be good at what I do. I
I still don't want to be famous. I want to be good at what I do. Fame, I don't know what it is. I've just come to terms with it. I think I've been in denial about it. And
I know we've been begging you for 8 years to come on here.
You know, it's not what I do. What I do is I'm an actor and I work on my part and I play the part and then people go see it. And I don't even really deal with it. I look at it once and it's gone. I was playing this doctor on St. Elsewhere and the executive producer, Bruce Paltrow, Gwyneth Paltrow's dad, allowed me to leave the show 3 times during the course of the 6 years I was on the show. Those 3 times I worked with great directors, Norma Jewison, Sidley Lumet, and Richard Attenborough. So if it wasn't for him letting me out to do these movies, we wouldn't be sitting here. But also, you actually answered it with what when you were answering the question. You said in your face, because now we're here.
Ooh.
See, in a play, you're sitting back 5 rows, 20 rows, 50 rows back. Both actors, like say you're the audience, we have to play it in a way that you see us a little bit, right, as we talk, whichever configuration we're playing out. So the intensity now in a film.
Interesting.
Right. So if the two, you and I are talking now and the audience is out there, there's less intensity. But when that camera gets here now it's like, it's a bit more intense. And it actually builds. And I went a little harder.
Interesting.
That's what I had different takes, and that's the one I chose. Those are the ones I chose. I never said I must also direct it. Someone always asked me. Scott Rudin brought me the August Wilson screenplay 7 or 8 years ago. So when I read it, I said, well, no, I want to do the play. That was something I wanted to do, was to act in the play. And then it took another 7 years of being a chicken to 5 years, whatever, to get behind the camera. So I didn't understand how hard their job was until I tried to do it. Comedy.
Is it harder?
Oh, yeah. Well, it's more fun, but it's newer territory, you know, for me. I've done a couple of 3 of them. Not very good, but I went for it. But I think comedy is more difficult because I mean, in life, people tell me I got a good sense of humor, but that's different than doing comedy because you got to do it again and hit it at the right. I can do it when it's spontaneous, you know, but to hit it the right way, to know how to play, I think you really got to work at that. And I think that's probably an area where by not getting back on stage enough and practicing, that I'm lacking a little bit because you know, to jump in a movie now is a big business decision. You know, there's money on the line and all of those things. But to take up a small play and go off Broadway somewhere and practice, if you will, in a comedy. We were staying in a hotel on the water in Savannah, Georgia, and next to it were these kind of curved. It looked like parking spaces. They used them to put cars in. They looked like little caves. And I walked around and I was looking around and this old man came up to me and said, "Do you know what these were used for?" And I said, "No, parking cars." He says, "Well, no, in the old days, in slavery days, they'd bring the slaves in from the ship, right, the river was right there, and they would pile them up in these were actually the quarters that they kept them like housed in." And he showed me, we went inside and you could still see the holes where they used to keep the hooks to chain them to the wall. So I started doing all my preparation in those caves. I would go in there and read my script. I'd go in there and play the part and work on the part and just, I lived in there. In fact, I actually broke one of the hinges off. Don't tell anybody.